Hey, this is Notser, and today we're going to be talking about the British heavy cruiser line, which Wargaming recently detailed. I just had to make other videos to get to this stage. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the British heavy cruiser lines, their traits, general play characteristics, and my impression on how Wargaming wants to design them, because not everything is as it appears. Just saying. So, first up, we've got the premium tier 6 British heavy cruiser, London. London will have 8 203mm guns on 4 gun turrets. It has a 16mm bow and stern, so it's on the low side of armor for any cruiser, and that's just going to be a trait that the Brits have to deal with. But what I am hearing is that the British will have active maneuvering armor for the whole line, so that when you are angled and actively trying to dodge out of the way of shells, you will have more absorptions and ricochets on average when you compare it to some other ships that have super low bow and stern, like the Japanese cruiser or the Italian cruisers. They don't really have active mitigation armor, and this is sort of a new concept for cruiser lines. Think about the Siegfried. If it was perfectly broadside, you could easily stick your citadel in the ship, but if it's actively maneuvering, a lot of ricochets. That is my impression on what they're going for with this particular line. Whether they hit it is another story. Now, one interesting thing about this is that the British heavy cruisers will have access to high explosive. And their high explosive is pretty good because it's British. They also obviously have AP, and as we know with the American heavy cruiser line, 203 short range, pretty devastating. It's on the longer reload of 15 seconds. Longer? Yeah, even drawing out that word. The longer side of reload, 15 seconds. The turret traverse is honestly very quick at 22.5 seconds. Dispersion, all that stuff, everything matches up with what it should be. Also, of course, you're going to get British torpedoes, and remember, British torpedoes have the ability to individually send torpedoes. So it's a huge benefit that all the British heavy cruisers are going to seemingly benefit from as well. So you can't discount that. I make so many plays with my British light cruisers because of the torpedoes, same with the British DDs, that it's a trait that you cannot ignore, even if reasonably you're not going to use them that frequently, 7 kilometers to 12.1 kilometers. And oh yeah, all of the stats are assuming that you have everything upgraded on the ship, but you haven't equipped any modules or consumables or camouflage. So keep that in mind. So 12.1 kilometer, tier 6, you can expect it to be improved by 10% if you use a commander. Obviously, it's a premium. So we're going to be looking at roughly about 10.9 kilometer detection, give or take. And that's okay. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. But look at the gun range, 13.4. You don't have a lot of room to maneuver. AA is predictably pretty effective, just as the British light cruisers were. I can't expect these guys to give up too much. They don't have the ability to equip defensive AA, so once again, that trait's going to carry through. But the London actually has a unique trait. It can equip smoke generator, and this is part of the reason why I think its range and concealment are so poor. It's because it's a heavy cruiser that can hide in smoke and blap people out of existence. But, you know, initial impression, since it's British, it gets a heal. It has a tier 6 heal. And, you know, obviously the Brits, they turn 1 heal charge into 3 with Superintendent and Premium. It's going to be pretty outstanding, I think, to play these guys mid-tier. They're going to feel like they can stay in the fight longer and mitigate it. I think the line itself is going to be interesting. It also has the British hydroacoustic, the short range, just to protect yourself from torpedoes and point-blank ships. Not that that's going to happen too frequently with the British heavy cruisers, because their concealment is lacking when compared to the British light cruisers. So this is a premium London. Looks pretty cool. Hawkins is going to be a tier 5 British cruiser, and this is going to have 7 109mm guns. Now, it's 1 tier down from the London. You lose a little bit of health. 13mm bow and stern. But once again, I'm hearing that it's going to have active maneuvering armor, which means that you're not going to just have 16 or 20 here. You should have something in the realm of like 25, 30, 35, 40-ish. Not too much, just enough that when a battleship or a cruiser with AP shell comes in, it has a higher chance to ricochet when you angle. But yeah, Hawkins, 13.9 maximum gun range with the installed range mod of the ship that you would normally unlock with XP. Once again, AHE AP, pretty solid, honestly. It's super solid. Reload is 13 seconds. All of the guns do seem to be center aligned, which is nice. It is weirdly like extended out in this second deck thing, and I think it looks like it has some sort of sandbag thing. But it also has torpedoes. Again, single launch option is available. A defense, pretty good. Continuous damage is pretty high. I don't really have any issue with that. The speed of these ships so far, 32 knots for the London, 30 knots for Hawkins. Turn radius rudder shift, very usable, very active rudder shift. 7.8 seconds on this, 9.1 over here. Surface detectability, 12.6 kilometers. Not exactly the best, especially when you look at that gun range. About 1.3 kilometers of effective concealment to gun ratio. You could obviously have a commander that has at least 10 skill points and has chosen concealment. You would get back, it would be 11.4 kilometers. And then if you equip camo, it'll probably be like 11.1. So you're not really clearing it that much. It's very shallow in that regard. And unlike, well, actually, neither one of these, you can't extend the range of your ships. So the Hawkins, from my point of view, it's going to be really interesting if players embrace this active maneuvering. If they don't, and they just camp behind an island, because these are Brits, they're going to have similar British velocity. They're not as bad as the Americans, but they're basically second best or second worst for gun velocity. They're going to handle themselves near islands pretty consistently. This is what people are going to do. And when you consider that, if you stay side on, the AP shell is going to stay in the ship with that extra plating to allow for active maneuvering. So players are going to have to learn how to play these right, otherwise they're going to be punished. Once again, repair party, pretty exciting, obviously. Tier 5 cruiser with a repair party, yeah. And it's a heavy cruiser at that. Hawkins, London and Hawkins so far have existed in real life. Devonshire also existed in real life. This has the 8 203mm guns, 14 kilometer range. Very similar to the London, except it doesn't have smoke. It can't equip smoke. It never will be. But it has repair party hydroacoustic search. Maximum speed, 31.2 knots. Rudder shift's very nice. This rudder shift is very nice. The rudder shift on these ships really highlights the fact that they want you to use it. And in order to use it, you have to be actively moving. You're not going to be that stationary. HE AP shells, 12-second reload, 13 seconds on the Hawkins. Surprisingly, 12 seconds. That's a nice little boost. The London has 15 seconds, but the London has smoke, whereas Devonshire does not. So clearly, that's an advantage that they need to compensate for by reducing the reload time. But the ship itself, it looks pretty cool. I don't have any issue with it. It's, unfortunately, both of its 50% of its guns are forward and rear, so something like the Buffalo would be a good analogy to this ship. You're not really going to be defensively bunkered down. You're really relying on the active maneuvering. Otherwise, if you take a broadside, it's going to stick and it's going to be punishing. But that repair party, man, repair party. So Tier 6, Devonshire. At Tier 7, we have the Surrey. This also existed in real life. It has 16mm bow and stern, 35,000 hit points. The Tier 6 is 34,000. Wargaming pretty much knows the scaling that they're going for. Once again, 4x2, 2 in the front, 2 in the rear. It has torpedo systems. These torpedo systems reach out to 8 kilometers, but the concealment is improving. We aren't just giving up too much. Like, the difference between the tier 5 and the tier 6 is a big jump. 11.5, that's going to go down to 10.4. And then with a camouflage equipped, we're looking at probably 10.1. 10.1 is really nice. You can get closer and closer and closer to the opponent. This one, similar, maybe even a little better. We're looking at, with concealment, it's going to be 10.1. And then with a camouflage, we're looking at like 9.7, 9.8 concealment with an 8-kilometer range torpedo. We're getting into the region where you could theoretically send torpedoes preemptively as a ship is coming towards you. And once again, individually launched torpedoes. Huge advantage of the Brits. I cannot overstate this. That is a huge advantage. The AP shells, though, very, very familiar. HE's pretty good. AP's okay. It's not as heavy as the Americans, clearly. With a reload of 11 seconds, it's a solid ship. And the rudder shift, 9.4 seconds, so it's just a little bit slower, but it's still manageable. Appearance-wise on these ships, boy, is there a lot of superstructure. There is a lot of superstructure. And I fear that this superstructure will ultimately be what people aim for, and you can't really actively maneuver too much for something like that. AA continuous, it's pretty good. Total continuous combined, we're looking at 400, 500. Basically 500 continuous damage, roughly. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. At tier 7, yeah, that's very usable. Can't equip, obviously, your damage defensive AA. But what you can equip on the Surrey is a spotting aircraft. So you're going to be able to push that shallow range, 14.8. I mean, we're definitely talking about American heavy cruiser range. You can push that out a little bit further. So you can engage a target. I think the gun velocity, though, is going to be the limiting factor in most cases. You really aren't going to engage targets that are basically slow or aren't moving. Defensive hydro, just as before for the Brits, just as before, repair party. And it seems to start with 2 charges. Premium is going to be 3, and superintendent is going to be 4. Same as the previous tier, by the way. Yeah, actually, the tier 5, wow. So 2 charges. 2 charges. Wow. So you're going to be able to get up to 4 heal charges at tier 5. That's pretty sick. That's pretty sick. I think the Brits are going to be pretty popular for mid-tier and late tier competitive, just because of the heal factor. But the Surrey, you know, it has 8-kilometer range torpedoes, individually launched, 11-second reload, similar to the Devonshire, which is 12. Concealment, pretty good. And then we have the Bedford. Now, the Bedford is a tier 8 and is the last British ship to actually have existed for the heavy cruiser line. The other ones are completely made up and continuations of the design. It goes from 8 guns, which it's been 8 guns for a long time. Yeah, it's been 7 or 8 guns for pretty much all of this. It goes up to 9 guns at tier 8, 9 203mm guns, 15.7 kilometer range, which is nice, 25mm bow and stern. It's very Japanese, Soviet. I estimate that these will not have much more than 25 on the bow and stern because the sides will be so much more heavily armored to allow for active maneuvering. I don't know the exact figures because I can't see the exact armor, but I'm hoping that you can get the sides up to like 40, 50, 60, so that if you're actively maneuvering, AP will ricochet. Continuous, once again, it's pretty impressive. The AA is pretty legit on these guys. I enjoy that. 11-second reload on Bedford. HE 2800, AP 4500. I think the Brits will probably lean towards firing 50-50 HE AP, depending on the situation. That seems reasonable. Torpedo. Oh, the Bedford gets the 10-kilometer range torpedoes. That's pretty nice. So, because it is a tier 8, you can improve the concealment by 20%, module, commander skill, and then, of course, you can also change the camo improvement. So you can honestly get really close to 10-kilometer range on detectability of the ship. 1-to-1 with your torpedoes, they're going to be used. It's going to be something you got to consider. And depending on the angle of torpedo, you might see a lot of it or a little. I'm hoping that it's a wide angle for the torpedoes. Just saying. Anything else? 33 knots, rudder shift, 10.7 second rudder shift. Okay, so now we're getting into pretty slow, but I'm going to assume that the armor is going to bear out that it needs to be slower. Spotting aircraft once again, you can extend the range out. You've got about 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers base between your detectability and your maximum gun range. So if you use your spotting aircraft, you can expect, 2 or 3 more kilometers on your maximum gun range. You're working about 17 kilometers-ish. That's very German and very Italian. So that's the ranges that you could expect. These guys cannot equip radar. That has been kind of controversial, but they didn't want them to have radar. They just, do we really need more radar in the game? I don't know. I feel like the Brits, of all people, probably deserve it, but do we need it collectively? Maybe not. Maybe not. And would it compete with hydroacoustic? I don't know. Yeah. Note that this only has 1 charge by default, and premium is 2, whereas the previous tier was 2 charges and a 3rd charge for premium. So something about the Bedford is higher armor. And it's more than just the 25 millimeter. That is for sure. But, I'm excited for this. I like it. It is very similar to the American heavy cruisers, with obviously the advantage of the single launch torpedoes. And based on the way I play now, I don't really take defensive AA. I use hydroacoustic anyway, so it's not a loss to me that the British heavy cruisers can't use it, quite frankly. So yeah, Bedford looks pretty good. At tier 9, we have the Drake. Drake is completely fabricated in every way possible. It even looks like the slight gun tint is not quite matched up to the hull. Hopefully they can fix that. Once again, 25 millimeter bow and stern. It's going to have active maneuvering armor. So when it's open water maneuvering, it's going to be difficult to pin. But if it's stationary and broadside, it will be very easy for it to stick in the ship. That's the downside. This is exactly how the Siegfried worked when I was testing it. Main battery, we're getting a jump in caliber. We're going from 203 to 234, which is a nice jump. That should be pretty significant, both for HE and AP, and it is. The Sigma is improved to 2.05 from 2.0. The reload time is 14 seconds. We're in the territory of sort of a battle cruiser-esque type of experience. Very long reload, very Japanese, very Italian. The turret traverse is incredibly fast, though. So I can expect these guys, they really want you to be maneuvering. Everything that is these ships is screaming maneuver, 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 maneuver. And that's great, because that means that the whole line is aligned to work well together. Once again, AA, pretty solid. I mean, the AA is just, British AA is very good. No issue there. 10 kilometer range torpedoes. Surface detectability is 12.2. It's actually better base than the Bedford, which is 1 tier lower. Very interesting. You will easily be able to out-conceal or very easily incorporate the 10 kilometer range torpedoes in your basic play. Very excited to see how that works. The range of the guns, though, is a problem. 15.9 is very American heavy, and American heavies have to get very close and put themselves in a vulnerable spot, normally placing themselves in and around islands. So how is it going to work when you have to be so close, but yet you're encouraged to actively maneuver? I don't know how that's going to look. The ship also has, your repair party, your hydroacoustic, your spotting. The charges are 1, premium 2, and then superintendent 3. So I'm guessing that at tier 8, we get a British heal that's either better, much better than the previous tiers, or the armor is so much more usable that having the extra heal is excessive. Gotta see how they'll play. 11-second rudder shift. Detectability while firing in smoke. You don't have smoke. Not going to happen that frequently, but if you run with a light cruiser for the Brits, it is something that will happen. And then at tier 10, we have the Goliath. Goliath Online. The Goliath, once again, completely fabricated. Once again, it has the 50% forward, 50% rear. So pretty much every British cruiser, save for the Drake, has 50% of the guns facing forward, 50% in the rear. Another clear distinction from the American heavy cruiser line to really force you to not just hunker down and tank. You don't have the armor. 25 is not enough, and I'm going to assume that it's not going to have enough armor to really mitigate if you're stationary. But the deck armor is supposed to be high for active maneuvering. The hull armor, midship, is supposed to be high for active maneuvering. 10-kilometer range torpedoes, once again. This is going to be a little bit harder to use with a default concealment of 14 kilometers. Obviously, 10% of that, we're getting 12.6. And then 10% of that, we're getting roughly 11.4. So about 1 kilometer between your torpedo and then maybe 11.1 if everything's equipped. So about 1 kilometer where you have to make up the difference for your torpedoes. But that's very easy to do. You know, if the enemy battleship is coming into you or you want to deny an area, you can totally send them. And they will work very well. Very fast recharge too. 96 seconds. Very easy to incorporate it. Very similar to the Neptune play that I had in a previous video. This one gets 16.8 kilometer base range, but it doesn't have the ability to use an aircraft, a scout aircraft, to increase its range. This also has the 1 charge, premium charge 2, superintendent charge 3 situation. As previously stated, the AA continuous, it's very high. It's very stout. We're looking at 600, 740-ish, 730 with the continuous. And then obviously we've got the explosive salvo of flak, which it may or may not hit targets. But that's a pretty good continuous damage output. Just saying. But yeah, overall, the British heavy cruiser line, there's not enough information here to really say one way or the other, hey, this is amazing, or hey, this is really weak. Note that the Goliath does not have, oh, the hit points are listed there. They accidentally applied the hit points there. So the Goliath will have 58,600, whereas the Drake will have 46,800. Seems to be a pretty extensive increase in health, but maybe they're just afraid of the power at tier 10 and how effective they are at mitigating, and doing tons of damage. Reload slow, 15 seconds, 14 seconds. You're probably going to fight with yourself on whether you go reload or range mod on this one. I mean, I really do believe that. Depending on how effective it can be, reload's not going to hurt the turret traverse too much. 18 seconds, very quick. Everything is screaming. This ship line is designed to be open water and maneuvering. And whether that ends up being how good the best way to play them remains to be seen. But I can't wait to try them out. 8.9 is just around the corner, literally a couple days from now. 8.9 is going to come out. And then a couple days from then, we'll probably see British heavy cruisers up for testing. Very curious to check them out and see what you guys think. Overall, I'm very excited. I've kind of rediscovered my love for the Brits, okay? For the longest time, I was like, Brits are overrated, man. They like tea, and they call cookie biscuit, whatever. You guys are awesome. I love your DDs. I love the light cruisers. I've been playing a lot of light cruisers and just enjoying so much of it. So I'm expecting to really enjoy the British heavy cruisers. They're kind of a combination of the two things I really love. They're American and they're British. in the American heavy cruiser traits and obviously the British torpedo systems and defensive. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys also have a wonderful night, and I'll catch you guys another time. See you guys. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to check out more of my content, click the most recent or the most relevant uploads. You could also choose to subscribe to my channel. We do daily World of Warship videos, first impression, how-to, news, and review related. My North American recruit invite is on the screen. You can take advantage of that. I stream at twitch.tv/Notser. Thank you, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.